Welcome to a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the public and media consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that advance notice required therein has been provided. This is a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills at which formal action may be taken. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda. Roll call, please, Mr. Marco.
Mr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Cooper?
Here.
Mrs. DeGrandpre?
Here.
Ms. Gills? Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Ms. Nathans?
Here.
Mrs. Santoro?
Here.
Mrs. Tober?
Here.
Mrs. Rye?
Here.
And Mrs. Frenda.
Here. We are going to go into an executive session. The Open Public Meetings Act authorizes a public body to exclude the public from that portion of a meeting at which specified topics are to be discussed under circumstances where the public consideration of such topics will clearly endanger the public or where the personal privacy or guaranteed rights of individuals whose activities or affairs are to be discussed would be clearly in danger of unwarranted invasions, and the matters about to be presented for discussion clearly meet the circumstances test. Of such, the Board of Education of Somerset Hills now adjourns its public session to reconvene an executive session for the purpose of discussing the following: personnel, student matters, contracts, negotiations, and litigations. Can I please get a motion to go into executive? Ms. Cooper, and a second? Mr. Grandpre. Thank you.
How are you?
Welcome, everyone. If you would like to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. DeMarco, roll call, please.
Mr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Cooper? Mrs. DeGrandpre? Ms. Gills? Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Ms. Nathans?
Here.
Mrs. Santoro?
Here.
Mrs. Tober?
Here.
Mrs. Rye?
Here.
And Mrs. Frenda.
Here, thank you. And with a full house and the most exciting part of our meeting, we're going to kick it over to Dr. Brochel for the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mrs. Frenda. As is our custom, we're going to begin with student representative reports, and our first set of reports are going to be from Bernardsville Middle School, and we have student athletes that are representing field hockey and boys soccer, and our first representative from the middle school is Caroline Sowell. She is one of our student representatives. Come on up, Caroline.
Good evening. My name is Caroline Soul. I'm here tonight to talk about the amazing field hockey season that our school team had, the recent student council elections, and finally, the upcoming and recent events from the Student Council and Culture Climate Committee. The field hockey team had an outstanding record this year, with 10 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie. The team and I made it to the semifinals of the GMJSCA tournament, with our final with our final season game being against Peck, with a tough loss of 8-2. We had so much fun this year, and I can't wait to watch us become even better. Following the end of the field hockey season, the student council elections began. The elections were for the president and vice president of 8th grade, the secretary and treasurer of 7th grade, and finally, the vice secretary and treasurer of 6th grade. The elections and voting time drew to a close on Monday, October 30th, with the winners being James Rosales and Nyla Faley for president and vice president, Ashley Mann and Joanna Smith for secretary and treasurer, and lastly, Teddy Quinn and Miles Olakanovich taking the places of vice treasurer and vice secretary. The elections are a symbol of school spirit and pride. With 17 candidates, the amount of students that ran outnumbered the election size from any other year. In addition, we have a record number of student council members with 50. Everyone had outstanding videos and posters. Best of luck to our new council. Finally, the Culture Climate Committee has recently added new members from 6th and 7th grade, whom we are welcoming with open arms. We recently had the Spirit Day of Country versus Country Club, which was on October 20th, where students dressed up as either a cowgirl or cowboy, and/or as a person showing off their country club spirit. To carry on the Halloween festivity, we recently had a virtual pumpkin parade and teacher pumpkin carving competition. Coming up, we will have an autumn day on November 21st with multiple fall activities during lunch for students to partake in. Following Thanksgiving break, student study halls will begin to compete in the 3rd annual holiday door decorating contest courtesy of the Culture Climate Committee. Students throughout the school in their study halls will decorate their study hall teachers' doors with holiday-themed decorations. The winners will be earning a study hall pizza party. Along with this, students can participate in the hunt for Bailey the Bulldog, who throughout the month of December moves about the school building, and if a student locates the Bulldog, they can earn house points for their house. Thank you so much. I will now pass it on to Alex Rutz.
Good evening. My name is Alex Rutz. Tonight I am going to talk about the great soccer season the boys' middle school just had, and also about making cards for veterans in our pajama drive. I will also give you some information about the upcoming winter sports. The boys' soccer team had a fantastic season. We made it all the way to the semifinals and ended up losing in penalty kicks. Our overall record was 5 wins, 3 losses, 4 ties. Throughout the season, we kept getting better and better thanks to our coaches, Coach DeBon and Coach Cook. Without these amazing coaches, our team would not have made it as far as we did. On November 14th, BMS students stayed after school to write letters and create holiday cards for a program known as A Million Thanks. A Million Thanks is an organization that will send cards and letters directly to military veterans. Students wrote these letters to show their appreciation and gratitude towards the veterans. Another important update is that the program and the Scholastic Book Club are partnering together for an event known as the Great Bedtime Story Drive. This is the 2nd year that BMS is partaking in this pajama fundraiser. For every set of new pajamas donated, Scholastic Book Club matches the donation with a storybook. Last year, BMS collected almost 100 sets of pajamas. The fundraising drive lasts from November 13th through December 1st. Finally, as we look forward to winter sports this week, BMS is holding tryouts for girls and boys basketball for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. Practices will start soon, and the team is hoping to have a great season to carry on the winning spirit from the fall. Thank you.
Nicely done, Caroline and Alex. A couple things that I just want to reinforce for the board and for the public. Regarding the student council elections at the middle school, they had a significant number of candidates, and I think the level of civic interest and collective responsibility towards those elections and representing their peers inside of the school is such a great thing to see. I've been doing this for a while, and I've never seen such a large number of children in a student population that want to serve. So that's a great thing to hear, and it's certainly a great thing for our community. And I just want to clarify with Caroline and Alex, I didn't hear any update on whether or not Ms. Garofalo has yet to kiss the pig. Okay, so failing that, we can't let that go. Like, this has to happen. You guys supported this, and we're going to see this through, right? Okay. All right, so to give everyone a little inside baseball here, there was a pretty large fundraiser that took place at the middle school. Kids had the options on 4 buckets in order to donate money to, and the principal's bucket and Mr. Boudreau were a team, and they had the most student donations to kiss that pig. So there is a local pig that will be making an appearance up at the middle school. I understand he's very popular, and he's kind of unavailable at the moment, but he will be coming. So Mr. Malik, can you support these guys to make sure? Were you one of the candidates?
I was a proud loser.
Yeah, you were a loser. Yes. So I recall. Okay. Good times at the middle school as always. Here to speak about the high school, we have Gabrielle and Madison. So come on up, girls.
Hello, I'm Madison, one of the student representatives for BHS. The students at the high school have been working hard in the last month with some impressive accomplishments. Random drug testing is back at Bernard's, having gone through both the October and November cycles. Students participating in activities throughout BHS have all had the opportunity to be chosen for this, happening twice so far this school year. So far, fall athletics have been groundbreaking at BHS. All in all, BHS has a total of 4 sectional titles and 12 championship titles just this year. Girls soccer has ended with a record of 13-5 and were Valley Division champions. Boys soccer won Raritan Division and Skyland Conference, North 2 Group 2 sectional championship, and ended with a record of 12-4-1. Our football team made Bernard's history by being the first-time appointed winners of sectionals. They have a spotless 12-0 ongoing record and won 2 championships, the Patriot League Gold Division with a record of 10-0, and the BC Championship and the North 2 Group 2 sectional title. This Friday, they play Westfield High School, who are seeded number 1, and we're seeded number 2. Mr. Hoppy is in the process of organizing a fan bus for students to take to Washington, Bergen County. Cross country has also had a great season for both girls and boys. Girls cross country are division champs, finished 6th in the state and 4th in their section. Boys cross country achieved the Raritan Division champs, Skyland Conference champs, North 2 Group 2 sectional champs as well. Brody Watt, who's a sophomore on the team, came in 1st in the Group 2 state championship. The girls' team just finished up their season for tennis. They won the Raritan Division Championship for the Skyland Conference, as well as the North 2 Group 2 sectional title. They finished 13-3 at the end of the season. Field hockey won the Valley Division Championship and Skyland Conference and ended with a 9-1 record in their conference. Volleyball has broken records at Bernard's, making the state tournament for the first time in school history. They finished with a record of 7-13 and won their tournament at Bound Brook. Along with this, the clubs and activities at BHS have also been doing some pretty amazing things recently. The GSSPA Awards were awarded to the Crimson and Bernardian staff earlier this month. They have received 2nd place in the print overall excellence for Division B and an honorable mention for the online paper's overall excellence. For news writing, we have received the 4th place for Sydney Call's article, Board of Education Meets to Discuss February Agenda and Actionable Ideas, and 5th place for Sydney's Interim Superintendent Begins Stint at SHSD. For opinion writing, we've received the 4th place for Ava Highlands. Schools and libraries deserve greater freedoms with their book selections. And for reviews, 3rd place for Morgan Sykes' review of Tim Burton's Wednesday. For sports writing, Finn Vaccaro's writing 3 juniors commit to D1 colleges for lacrosse, received 5th place. Lucinda Putnam's State of New Jersey passes New Voices Law, received an honorable mention for the New Jersey New Voices category. Layout and Design came 5th place with Jane Holmes's College Applications Process Creates Stress for Class of 2023, and 6th place for Ava Highland's Entertainment page. Photography received 2nd place for Ari Rosen's baseball team makes it to the state tournament. Matt Lesnick, Spencer Saltz, and Matt Mariani and Ari Rosen's podcast received an honorable mention, as did the social media presence of the Crimson. The Crimson staff are also working towards their student news source badges, having completed 3 already. This places us 21st out of all of the high schools in the country and makes us the highest ranking New Jersey school. The staff hope to receive all of the badges for the 2nd year in a row soon. We also would like to shed light on another BHS student. Sam Deutsch is a junior at BHS who has been selling t-shirts and clothing and collecting donations to go towards a foundation which helps Israel in their current conflict. He has done this through school lunches, at BHS, and outside of various sporting events at the high school. Turn it over to Gabby now.
Hi, I'm Gabby, the other student representative at BHS. So continuing with clubs and activities, the BHS community is excited to announce our introduction of the Unified Sports bowling. This activity encourages students to branch out and participate in a fun, community-centered activity through the school where students promote social inclusion. This unifies students with and without intellectual disabilities and is funded by a grant from the Special Olympics. This is a new winter sport, so it's encouraged for all students to participate. The fall production, Lend Me a Tenor, was performed the first weekend in November, with many students and faculty attending one of the 4 performances. Many students are taking initiatives in their clubs, like Kaylee Welsh and Abby Sebastian, who started the Theater and Performing Arts Club this year. They put together a Villains Cabaret, in which students and even one faculty member picked a song on the Villains theme and performed it at the PAC. BHS is holding their annual dodgeball tournament on Monday, where students can form a team of friends and compete against one another. Teams dress up, and the entire activity encourages all-school spirit. Spectators are encouraged, so make sure to stop by. The NHS induction is tomorrow night in the PAC, where all seniors who were accepted at the end of last school year and the beginning of this school year will be officially sworn into the National Honor Society. They are also organizing the annual blood drive for the next Tuesday, the 21st, where students and faculty can donate blood during the school day. Garden Club has kicked off the school year strong, with several meetings having been held already. They are not a school-funded club, so they are currently in the process of fundraising, with T-shirts, sweatshirts, and other clothing items being sold, with all profits being used to fund their activities. Girl Up Empowerment Initiative is holding a cookie walk fundraiser on Wednesday, the 22nd. The proceeds will be split between two charities, the Megan David Adam Foundation for Israeli citizens and the Palestinian Children Relief Fund for children of Palestine. The softball team has also begun fundraising already this school year. They are selling raffle tickets to students and staff that are raising money for the suicide prevention tournament that they are playing in on April 6th. This is the second annual varsity softball tournament hosted by Immaculata and Pingree High Schools, and all proceeds go towards the Suicide Prevention Foundation. Thank you.
Okay, so moving through our student and faculty recognition part of the evening, first up is our girls tennis team, who won the state sectional championship, North 2 Group 2. This was a very impressive group of girls, led by two very passionate coaches here, Miss St. Hours and Mr. Malik. There's a lot that should and can be said for them. They dominated the entire year, and they really put it all out there on the court, and I was in close contact with Mr. Hoppy throughout the season, who had shared with us that there was a very, very strong possibility that we would win our section and then also advance at the state level when they played their tournament down at West Windsor. And without further ado, I think it's incumbent upon us to congratulate the players and the coaches on such a great season. I'm wondering if I could put Elizabeth on the spot to speak tell a few words to the public about how great this group of girls was. Come on up.
Well, thank you for recognizing such a great season. Just a little history. Bernards has not won a sectional title since 2006, so it's been a while. So it's nice to bring home a championship. What can I say? It's a great group of girls. Not only are they great tennis players, but they're great girls, which is ultimately what makes coaching so great. Having girls that get along, they're really like a family. We worked hard, we had fun, and we had a great season. I mean, that's in a nutshell, and I can't wait to do it again next year. So, yeah. Sure, absolutely. Is there any particular order? You want me? Okay. All right, so I'll call up girls. If one at a time you can come up. Elizabeth Chen. I'm used to being too loud. Juliana Donnell, who, by the way, was our captain. Katerina Perizic. Milena Perizic. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Claire Wren. Olivia Rosenthal. And Tiffany Zhang.
we have one for both coaches.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have a resolution here. This is yours.
Thank you very
Liz.
much.
And come on up, Phil.
I wasn't expecting anything.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You bet. So the resolutions that the students and the staff members just received are formal resolutions that will be adopted by the Board of Education, and they will rest in the permanent minutes of the board for all to see in perpetuity. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next group that we would like to take a moment to recognize comes from our VOCES 2023-24 Reaping Heritage Program. And community events for our multilingual community started about 8 years ago with a potluck meal and a presentation right here in the community room. The original meeting was all presentations from the school here, and families were thankful, but it was sparsely attended. We then held listening sessions with families discussing how our district can best serve the community and how our district can create more access for all families that we serve. The clear response in these conversations was a space for families to meet and talk in person with different staff representing different departments in the district. Next year, these meetings started to take place in the media center with breakout sessions on different topics for families. The events continued during the COVID lockdowns when connections with the school were more vital than ever. The district worked with local organizations and churches to bring meetings to a local church parking lot so meetings could take place outside. In the spring of 2020, families stayed in their cars and had quick drive-by visits. But by 2021, a community event with food and games was set up for all families. In 2022, in coordination with our local parks department, we moved the event to Kiwanis Park to use a bigger space that families already knew. New organizations and school services kept joining the event to connect with families. And in 2023, just this past August, we offered the following: school forums, school questions, Power School and online access, transportation and busing matters, and sports registrations. Multiple outside organizations joined to provide additional services for our families. The goal, based on conversations we had with families, is an informal community gathering for families to connect with school staff, have something to eat, and for children to get a chance to play. Most of these staff members and many others who could not join us today are involved in translating for families that may not have English as their primary language throughout the year. Many here tonight and throughout the district take on the role of overseeing one school process like bus forms, and some staff are assigned to be a central point of contact for certain families, like the Bedwell Title I families, and others are called on for meetings, calls, and conversations. Certainly, the level of passion and commitment that we have collectively towards serving all of our district families is a deep and broad one, and it's an honor and a pleasure tonight to be able to recognize the folks that were able to engage in such a deep and broad way with our greater Bernardsville community to ensure that every single kid means every single kid. So we have another set of resolutions that seeks to honor the work and the commitment for this year's contributors that work here for the district for our annual bilingual community event. I think it behooves me to call up Mr. Michael Catelli first as the leader and one gentleman here who spearheads all this work on the administration's behalf. Mr. Catelli? Our next honoree is Marixa Acuna. Mr. Boudreau could not be with us tonight. He is at the girls' soccer annual banquet, but he was a critical part in the sports registration process at our event this year. The crowd goes wild. Stephen Cannon, I'm going to call him up. Stephen, come on up. So Stephen's wife, Norma, does not work for the district, but she also joined us at this event and was a significant contributor for us. So on behalf of the board, please thank your wife. All right, thank you. Next is Salome Chafee. Manny De La Paz represents our transportation department. Just by way of introduction for the board, Manny serves a significant kind of dual role for us, not only in our transportation department driving a vehicle, but he's also a critical communicator on an as-needed basis with any folks in the area of transportation. So he's a critical player here, as is everybody. Next, we have Amy Hart. Next honoree is Stephen Mirando. Our next honoree is Tatiana Rodriguez. We're in a little bit of a pickle now because we have to have somebody operate the camera. We have Ricky Saez. Come on up, Ricky. And that captures our honorees for this evening regarding our Reaping Heritage initiative. Congratulations. So for this group as well, these formal proclamations will be a part of the permanent minutes of the board. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you all for your great work. Thank you. I'm going to make a transition for the benefit of the community into my superintendent's report. Sometimes this is where I give my public address message that you can, obligated to say if you're here for an award. You can stay for the whole thing if you like as well. So we have a lot of great things that are going on. I want to update the board regarding some of our great news that has hit the public wire in the form of local newspapers. Let's talk a little bit just to reinforce the high school message regarding the work that's being done by the Crimson over at Bernard's High School. They've been recognized many times over by the Garden State Scholastic Press Association. Heather Hunkley, who is here tonight, has played a significant role with these kids since 2008. On top of being a certified teacher, she also has an additional designation as a certified journalism educator. She's great, and what I like about her is that she lets the kids apply what they learn in the classroom setting, and they're really doing beautiful work. And I think that that's our role as educators, is to set kids up to be able to be successful in particular areas that they're interested in. I became familiar with her work early on. Happened to be on all the email distribution lists, or a lot of them anyway, and she has been sending out email information about recent graduates that have moved on to college and are pursuing roles in journalism, and they're doing particular work and being recognized at the college level, whether it's in writing or podcasting or broadcasting itself, and that's been great to see. So she's doing beautiful work, and I will say that I met with the podcasting crew from the Crimson, and those kids are a hoot, and I'll tell you a couple of important things. Number one, my wife has the Crimson podcast in her car. She does, yes. My little guy likes to listen to Dad. For reasons unknown. So that's fact number one. Fact number two, I became so interested in my actual podcasting experience with the kids that I have actually kicked around is that something for another way for the district to connect to kids and on the outside, to share what's going on in the district. And I was interested because the crew that I worked with here, we met in the library, and they just broke out a cell phone, taped everything. Next thing you know, it was on their account, and it seemed pretty professional. And I went to a few sessions down at the New Jersey School Boards Association workshop, and they had kind of elaborate setups. But it was interesting to see how little you need to podcast. You just need people and a phone, really. And so that was cool. I'm intrigued. I'm not ready yet. I think that's kind of like something I need to plan out a little bit in my head. But, from one educator to another, you certainly put me in a position to learn. And I like that. And the kids taught me a lot. And I see them around quite a bit, and they email me, and they're always looking for news, just for the record. Yeah. So I tell them to check our website. The day of the board meetings, you get this big presentation you can report on. So that's been great news. Pretty soon, Brody Watt is going to be a household name, if it's not already, throughout the state. He's a sophomore. He won the Group 2 cross-country championship a few weekends ago, and he placed very, very high last weekend at the Meet of Champions. It's extraordinarily rare to have a winner in a state race like that, and so it's been many years since we've had one. We have a storied program here at the high school, and Brody certainly joins the list of accomplished runners. The great thing is he's only a sophomore. He's an exceptional runner, and by all accounts, he's an even better kid. And it was, it's great to see him meet and exceed his potential as well. We have partners just across the street with Communities in Crisis, and I've spent a good bit of time meeting with them and sitting in some sessions with them and learning along with them. And recently, Communities in Crisis was honored by the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, and They earned the Blue Ribbon Coalition. Jody D'Agostino and Tony Knoll are friends to the district here and have become personal friends of mine. I am just intrigued by their passion and their leadership in the area of substance prevention and educating people, young and old, about the perils of substance abuse and how to work through that in a positive way. We have a student here at the high school, Fiona Vitale, who was one of 4 kids in the country who was asked to participate in a panel discussion regarding substance abuse prevention. She's a student leader, and she's one of ours, and we're proud of her, and I know communities in crisis are just tickled that not only was the organization honored at a White House event, but so was Fiona, and that's a big deal where I come from. The high school has named its everyday hero for the month. Shelby Rosen has been described as inclusive, as kind, as being willing to serve others, as being mature, and as being poised. And in the next few days, there will be some press that is covering this important designation here up at the high school. We have some community partners here. Somerset Hills Education Foundation has their first event coming up on Sunday, December 10th at Liberty Park over in Peapack Gladstone. It's a holiday pet parade, and there will be a host of other activities there, so I would invite you all to attend, those that can and are able, noontime on Sunday, December 10th. And we are certainly so pleased that we have such an active education foundation here in Somerset Hills, and we are certainly here to support all of their events and look forward to the event on the 10th. This fall, the high school, as we do every year, created and produced what's called a school profile. The school profiles are used by colleges in order to assess student candidates that are looking to matriculate to certain colleges, and it's something that's uploaded into Naviance, and they use it in order to compare schools to one another and in order to assess candidate viability. When we look at the current school profile in comparison to last year's, it gives you a lot of good information. It shows you that matriculation to post-secondary schools did increase from year to year. It shows you that because of that, there's been a decrease of kids that haven't gone to college. So both things are positive and are notable. When we assess our National Merit Program status, the class of 21 had 8 commended students. The class of 2022 had 8 commended students and 1 winner. And the class of 23 had 9 commended students and 1 winner. Again, that's notable information that I think is important to share. When we examine progress in our advanced placement courses in 2022, we did have 1 AP International Diploma, although we didn't have any in 2023. We had 31 students that earned the AP Scholars with distinction in 22, and in 23 that increased to 37 students. In 22, we had 21 AP Scholars with honors, and in 2023, we had 24 that earned that distinction. And rounding out, we had 26 AP Scholars in 2022, and we had 37 AP Scholars in 2023. Certainly a great testament to students, parents, and teachers alike. When we examine SAT results over multiple cohorts, you see an increase in reading and writing scores. We had a score of 599 in 2022. That increased to 625 in 2023. Math saw an increase as well on our SAT scores, 592 in 2022. That increased to 611 in 2023. Our ACT results saw a slight uptick when compared to 22 to 23. And our median GPA for the two classes rose, I would say, moderately from a 3.6 for the class of 22, with just about a quarter of those students earned above a GPA of 4.0, and a median GPA for the class of 23 was 3.83, with 38% of the students scoring above a 4.0. Our transportation department is working towards our budget for the next fiscal year. We continue to examine our hazardous routes. We are in the process of engaging joint agreements with local school districts to transport particular trips from those school districts off hours at a time that wouldn't disrupt our operation, which is good. Having an enterprise fund in order to bring in additional dollars is always a good thing, so that's something that's worthwhile noting. We did have a successful run in the area of athletic transportation, particularly at the middle school. We're slowly having an uptick towards 100% fill rate there, although we're just at 85. We did have successful after-school club runs, and ultimately we're able to hire additional personnel as well. So just to kind of frame things for the board and for the public, this transportation department in the span of 3 months has taken on a life of its own, and we have gone from being subjected to the decisions of vendors to now driving, no pun intended, our own success. Or maybe, is it pun intended, Jenny? Okay. So at any rate, it's nice kind of being in control, and it's nice having folks from other districts that are now reaching out and kind of kicking the tires, pun intended, on us. So. Up at the high school, last month we approved a core sampling initiative to take a few samples of the track. What that is going to do, it's going to allow us to assess the viability of the track, and it'll help us determine how deep and broad we need to go as far as work goes. So the answers will either be you have to do a complete renovation of the track, which is possible given the age and since we last did work, or they may come back and say you don't have to do a full renovation, you just have to modify it. So we need to do that work. That will allow us hopefully to go out to bid some point in the very early winter in January or so, and potentially be able to award in March, and then be able to initiate work shortly after graduation in advance of preseason in August. And it sounds a little wild to be talking about preseason athletics already for August, but that's kind of like how far out you have to work with these processes. We're engaging in a lower field study with our professional services, and frankly, the ideas, or the intention here is to develop short-term and long-term solutions for the lower fields in totality at Berners High School. Moving into the area of policy, the policy committee has been working closely with me throughout the summer and the early parts of the fall regarding its Booster Club policy, and the intent here is to reduce board involvement. We have a parallel intent to maintain our operational structure and be able to offer flexibility not only to the district but also to booster clubs. And at the end of the day, I think we also wanted to reduce kind of what I call board fingerprints, on that process as much as we could. So we have we have a stated purpose here in our policy to raise funds to support and not to supplant the district budget. So what that means is the budget that we move forward with will speak more broadly to athletics, so there isn't such a level of reliability amongst the individual teams to have booster clubs and to have alternative methods to fundraise, et cetera, for things that are important to maintain those programs. So from my level, having a budget that's reflective of the need is critical, and that's job number one as far as the superintendent goes. So we also have language in there, and I'm going to share out a draft of the policy for the board. But I'm just kind of giving you the high strokes here, just so you're aware in advance. There's language in there regarding insurance coverage for any events that take place on district property. And there's language in there regarding fundraisers and raffles, particularly those that either take place on board property or in the event that a raffle involves board property, like raffling off a parking spot. So I heard somebody wants to raffle off Jenny's spot, so, we're going to, that's a policy item, yeah. Student participation in fundraising is purely voluntary, and that's actually also connected to a student fundraising policy that will be modified as well. The donation acceptance protocols will include even if it's a nickel, will include a motion that goes in front of the board for acceptance at a regular public meeting by a majority vote. The funds raised won't be used to won't be utilized for additional personnel. I'm off my slides here. Or for stipends for any team or for any individual supporting a team. And participation in our activities will have to adhere to district policy and district procedure, and certainly connectivity to NJSIAA guidelines and et cetera. Utilizing our logos and images is permissible once permission is requested and granted, and there's also some language in there that offers clarity regarding how a booster club can function regarding the out-of-season period as well. We've deleted some language. Certainly, we are deleting the requirement for approval for student trips, the requirement to gain permission to fundraise on behalf of the district, particularly in areas where the district is not involved in it. No district property is being used, et cetera. Again, that's an intent on our side to kind of reduce a board fingerprint on a lot of the processes. And we're also deleting, there were some potentially random and arbitrary deadlines to advise the district of any fundraising that a booster club may do. And unless a fundraising scenario involves board property, it's not a requirement for them to advise us in advance. So it's important that I meet with currently approved booster clubs for feedback. The intent is not to hamstring a booster club. The intent, again, is to create flexibility for all the parties in order to function, within the policy. And I do anticipate having feedback incorporated into a first reading once approved by the committee at the December 13th, 2023 meeting, and a tentative second reading on January 24th, 2024. And again, I will forward some of that draft information out to committees as well. Looking ahead, I spoke about booster club work and student fundraising work. We have a special education parent advisory group meeting on December 7th. Tomorrow morning, we have a articulation work with our first responders and law enforcement groups here in the region, and those historically have been very, very productive for all parties involved. Our long-range facility planning will commence on November 28th between our architects and the central office administration and school principals and other impacted parties. And more to come on that through the F&O committee moving forward. We're planning an athletic lights focus group on December 7th as well. That'll be an evening event. It'll be a working session. And we are hosting that on the 7th with the intent on soliciting feedback from the community regarding athletic lights, particularly at Olcott. Tomorrow night, we have National Honor Society inductees here at 7 o'clock in the PAC. You all certainly are welcome to attend. We will be installing 2 additional lines across the turf at the 25-yard marker, at both 25-yard markers. They're going to be parallel to the 25 in orange, I believe, Ginny? Okay. Orange, yes. We still have to consult with the field hockey expert here. So orange lines, long story short, the specs of the field did not include a 25-yard orange line that goes across, and that is standard in the rules. So we got to pass this year from the Officials Association, but we really do need those lines at the 25. There's a change order on the agenda tonight to memorialize that, and then we can get to work there. And then at the December meeting, I'll do a review of my first 100 days in the district and beyond, and also do a review of the board's strategic plan. Ms. President, that satisfies my report for tonight.
Excellent. Thank you so much. A lot of wonderful information in that report and a lot of great information for our community. We are going to move on now to public comments for actionable agenda items. We very much welcome input from the public. Public comments are welcome at this time on any actionable agenda item. Towards the end of the meeting, there is a second public forum on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, but an individual may speak a second time after all others who wish to speak on the topic have been heard, and that is for a total of 2 times at the podium for each speaker. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels that there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with New Jersey statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. Public comments will be limited to 30 minutes. Ginny will... Oh, she doesn't have her clock. Okay. She doesn't have her timer, but she will be keeping track of the 3 minutes, and at the 3-minute mark, I will interrupt the speaker to let them know that the time has expired. They can return to the podium for a second time after all others who have wished to spoken have had an opportunity to do so. Just a reminder to please keep all comments respectful, and that there should be no dialogue between the audience and the speaker. And I thank you in advance for your input. If anyone would like to take the podium. No? Okay, can I get a motion to close public comments, please? Ms. Rye, a second? Mr. Baker, thank you. Okay, next up then is the approval of the minutes. So I will need a motion to approve the minutes, please. Ms. Santoro and Ms. Cooper, thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper? Mrs. D. Grandpre?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. And now moving on to the report of the Finance Committee. Mr. Baker, please.
Okay. Just as a note, have you seen the audience, how unbalanced this is? I've been on this board a long time. I've never seen when people leave, everybody's on the other side. It's unusual. Anyway, the Finance Committee met on October 30th for 45 minutes. Everybody was in attendance. along with Dr. Brochel and Mrs. DeMarco. We discussed 5 items. The first item was the school breakfast implementation, but I'm going to let Mrs. Santoro talk about that because we talked about it in her committee, and we're going to share the work here tonight. So we also talked about transportation, and Dr. Brochel mentioned what we're doing there. We're going to, there's a resolution on the agenda tonight we're going to vote on in a few minutes to provide bus transportation to Berners Township High School and Long Hill Board of Education. And what we discussed is we've got bus drivers and buses that we can now use before we need them in the afternoon, because like Ridge goes to their swim practice at 2:30 and we don't need our bus to 2 o'clock. So we're going to provide service to the swim team and maybe other things too. So and we might make a little bit of cash on this. We don't know how much. We're not trying to gouge other schools, but we have to pay for everything. So we're going to vote on that. And I think I really think having our own transportation department has made our job so much easier than depending on contractors. I know in the past I was always worried about this. We would like to find a garage so we can fix our buses. Anybody knows any buildings we could use for doing bus repair? We would love to have you come forward. But I think it's been a very positive thing to get all our buses and all our drivers and all our paraprofessionals on them. The next item we talked about was, and we talked about this in previous meetings, where the board and the administration is reviewing the substitute rates for all substitutes, just not normal teachers, whether they're paras, bus drivers, and we're looking at the wage rates and are they in line with hiring the right people and getting enough support throughout our school district. So hopefully at our next meeting, we will vote. We might not change them all. We might change just a couple, but we're going to change something. And so we'll have that on the December meeting because we want to get that started for January. We also talked about we have 5 clubs that are volunteer at the high school, which are volunteer clubs, and the board wants to get them stipends. So we're working with Shay to come up with appropriate stipends for those 5 clubs, and hopefully we'll be able to vote on that maybe next month too. And that's all we talked about, so I'll turn it back to Mrs. Frenda.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Baker. I would like to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 through 13 on the agenda, please. Mr. Joyce, and a second. Ms. Rye, and any discussion?
Just quickly note between finance and facilities, the transportation progression really over the last year and a half has been amazing. So from comments about no sports in the middle school, no transportation. Last year we had driver shortages. Now we're outsourcing and potentially making money. I think it's fantastic. So kudos.
Anybody else? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper? Mrs. DeGrandpre? Yes. Mr. Joyce? Yes. Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Mrs. Santoro, please, facilities and operations.
Okay. Bob, thank you for leaving me something. I appreciate it. We have a lot of overlap these days. So what Bob alluded to, I'm going to speak about the school breakfast implementation. Bedwell has reached 10% of our students that receive free and reduced lunch. So as mandated by the state, we need to be able to provide breakfast as well. And we will start that next year. There are several different options for doing this that the committee discussed, but really, you know, sorry, is this mine? Okay. but that is really an administrative decision, but we did talk about there could be a drop-off breakfast to kids in the classroom. And just to note, this breakfast is going to be available to all students. Our students on free and reduced lunch will get this breakfast for free, but it will be available for purchase to all of our students in the district. So there is a drop-off to the classroom option, a grab-and-go option, and a second chance breakfast option, which would provide a designated time where, similar to lunch, kids would come into the cafeteria. Administratively speaking, and Brian and Colleen, correct me if I'm wrong, the grab and go is probably the most beneficial way to do this without having an impact on teaching time. So I think that's what we were looking into. So at the point of the meeting, the administration was going to continue to work on coming up with the best operational plan to roll this out. And again, that will start next year. Bob, I do think I noted in your report that we were looking at a price, the projected cost would be $2.25 per meal. And our food provider, Macchio's, they do this at a lot of different schools, so they're able to provide a lot of input on how to get this implemented. So that was one of our main topics. We talked about the buses and transporting the swim team for Basking Ridge, which Bob already touched on. The other thing that we did talk about briefly was, now that we have brought our transportation in-house, was there any reconsideration of a slightly later, we're talking 5 to 7 minute start time of the school day to accommodate students taking the train, because as it exists with the train schedule, there is either an early option where the kids arrive in Bernardsville about 35 minutes early, or the second option gets them to Bernardsville pretty much just in time, and they have to run across town. So we have discussed this previously as a board, and it was brought up again in reconsideration now that we have our own fleet of buses, if it might be an easier ask at this point. And there's no easy ask, so we know administration is going to look into that. Dr. Broschel was going to work with Dr. Nigel to talk to the kids that are currently taking the bus to see what train they are taking. Are they having issues getting to school late? And start to do a little research to see what may make sense before we embark on that adjustment. And then you guys have already touched on the meeting for the lights, so I think that covers it. Oh, I am sorry. Yes, thank you, Pat. We are voting on a change order this evening for $449.44 for the BMS Media Center for the second shift installation of the rooftop HVAC system. So that is on the agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will need a motion to approve action items 1 and 2 on the agenda. Ms. Neathans, a second? Mr. Baker, any discussion?
Sorry, just want to bring one point. When you think about the start time, don't forget about Bedminster, because the busing, I'm pretty sure those drivers have to loop back and start the Bedminster run.
Right away, and we discussed that for sure, so we will make sure to keep that in mind. Thanks.
I just wanted to express my support for introducing breakfast. You know, I know we're talking about it at Bedwell, but I think it would be great if we could do it for all the schools in the district. I know the administration is exploring the feasibility of providing breakfast at the middle school and the high school, and I just think it's incredibly important. We have to feed our hungry kids. Clearly hunger interferes with learning and almost everything else. Kids who are hungry are more likely to have behavioral, emotional, mental health, and academic problems. And I know that some board members have recently expressed concerns that our district scores may be lower than that of those in neighboring districts. Last month, we presented data on the clear and very real differences between our district and some of these districts, and including the vastly higher proportion of students eligible for free and reduced lunches in our district. In recent months, we've also seen that students eligible for free and reduced lunches in our district have lower level of academic proficiency as assessed by NJSLA. And so that's one of the reasons why I think offering breakfast to kids at all schools is so important. Data indicate that kids who eat breakfast at school perform better on standardized tests, and evidence shows that academic achievement increases, especially in math, when schools offer a breakfast program. And providing breakfast to students at school improves students' concentration, memory, comprehension, and learning. And studies have also shown that providing students with breakfast in the classroom improves attendance, improves behavior, reduces disciplinary referrals, decreases tardiness, and improves academic performance. I recognize that there are logistical and real challenges associated with providing breakfast to students in all schools. I know that there will be a financial cost, but I think that overall adding breakfast would be such a huge benefit to our students in the district, and I think it's the right thing to do. So I just wanted to thank the administration for continuing to explore this possibility.
Just to clarify for the board, we are looking at the entire district, for breakfast, so I just wanted that to be clear.
Yeah. Also, I want to thank the committee for revisiting the slightly delayed time for, I know there's some new challenges with Bedminster, but I think it would be such a huge benefit to students just to get that extra half an hour of sleep. And I was also, just to revisit a discussion that we had way prior to COVID, but I know that a lot of districts are considering this, but was there any discussion of overall a later start time for the high school students? Because I know that data are really clear that later start times in high school have a variety of benefits: mental health, academic performance, all those types of things.
Yeah, we haven't had those discussions specifically. We are familiar, certainly, with the benefits, but we haven't dug into specifically a later start time for the high school.
I know that's a huge undertaking.
It's pretty complicated.
I don't want to I totally appreciate the vastness of this of that move, but I think it was something that we discussed years ago, and just something I think we should continue to consider. Yeah. But I don't underestimate the size of that undertaking.
Yeah, I think prior to COVID, it was a big movement big is relatively maybe exaggerating, but there were several key school districts in our state that had made the move, and it was presented at school boards, and there were county meetings happening about that many of us went to, and it was a discussion in here, and at that point there was a lot of support by, I think, the majority of the board to consider that, and then we all know what happened with COVID. So I was actually thinking about that too, and under the strategic plan with the social emotional wellness of the kids, it's definitely something that we should maybe consider to see if this board is interested in pursuing that type of research. Again, I do recall it being a lot of research, multi-year. You have to get all of your community involved and really partnering on this. So it's a big undertaking, and I'm not sure it's where we are right now, but I definitely agree. I think the sleep is critical for kids and their well-being and academic success too, so.
Was there anybody else?
I wanted to weigh in on the lunch program too, although not quite as eloquently and without as much support as you did. I think it's been a long time coming, and I'm very glad, because when kids are hungry, they just, and I can tell you that from being in the classroom with them. I don't know a teacher that doesn't have a box of food, which we know we're not supposed to give to kids, that when we see a kid that's hungry, we feed them. And that's what we do.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGraffre? Yes. Ms. Gill? Mrs. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathan?
Yes.
Mrs. Sanford? Yes. Mrs. Tober? Yes. Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Brenda?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ms. Cooper, curriculum, please.
All right. The curriculum committee met Tuesday, October 31st on Halloween for 2 hours. All committee members attended, as did Dr. Brochel, Dr. Butler, Dr. Nigel, Ms. Barna, Mr. Catelli, and Ms. Karansky. We had a full house. We discussed 2 main topics at our meeting: some exciting new course proposals for the high school and the current status of our district student services program. First, Dr. Butler, Dr. Nigel, Ms. Barna, and Mr. Catelli presented several new high school course proposals to the committee. The first course they presented was called Tomorrow's Teachers, a dual enrollment course to be run in conjunction with Keene University. This course was proposed in response to a student survey indicating interest in adding education coursework to the BHS catalog. This introduction to education will offer students a valuable insight into the rewards and challenges of education in American schools and will require students to complete 50 internship hours in a K-8 classroom setting. Students who successfully complete this course will receive credit through Keene University. Next, we discussed the expansion of the current multivariable calculus course as a dual enrollment course to be held in conjunction with RVCC. And just as a reminder, the district introduced multivariable calculus honors last year to meet the needs of our cohort of double accelerated math students at the high school who have successfully completed AP Calculus BC their junior year. Students who successfully complete this class will receive credit through RVCC. RVCC is currently reviewing the BHS curriculum to ensure it is aligned with its multivariable calculus class. Dr. Nigel and Mr. Catelli also recommended the introduction of AP Human Geography, which is one of the most popular AP courses nationwide. It's considered a great course for students interested in trying one AP course before college and would be an option for sophomores interested in a tested AP course. Human Geography could be viewed as a mix of anthropology and traditional geography. It's also the first course at the high school to introduce a geography-centered school of thought and would explore themes and concepts not addressed in current courses. Next, Ms. Barnett proposed a realignment of the digital art and photography curriculum at the high school. One of the goals of our current strategic plan is to continue to develop and promote the K-12 art program. Creation of art in digital media has evolved in recent decades and is a fundamental skill in numerous career fields. Our digital art classes have not recently updated and do not reflect recent changes in technology and careers related to digital art. According to Ms. Barna, differentiating digital art from digital photography will give students a more focused learning experience and provide more opportunities to explore different mediums and pathways to AP-level art classes. In fact, the development of a digital arts program, which will include Digital Arts 1 and Digital Arts 2, will enable students to develop more advanced skills in using computer and graphic software to create original artwork. In Digital Arts 1, students will learn to create original artwork using Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator and be introduced to concepts in art history, contemporary digital art, and art criticism. Digital Arts 2 will build on the foundation of Digital Arts 1, and in this class, students will develop more advanced skills in the use of graphic software, and assignments will be grounded in the work of relevant contemporary designers and fine artists. In Digital Photography 1, students will explore the basics of digital photography, focusing on the use of a digital camera to learn compositional skills. They will also learn to use introductory photo editing software and studio lighting. To ensure that these courses offer appropriate access, the technology of the art lab will need to be updated. This is a large building project that could cost between $20,000 and $35,000. Mr. Catelli then recommended the introduction of a non-AP Level 5 world language course to the curriculum, starting with Spanish 5. Currently, for seniors who have completed Level 4 languages in Spanish, French, or Latin, the only option for continuing their language development is an AP course. However, some students with an AP-heavy senior course load may only be interested in continuing their study of a language in a non-AP class. A Spanish 5 honors class would provide this opportunity. This class would aim to develop students' speaking and conversation skills through the study of film, media, music, and modern text, targeting the highest level of intermediate proficiency in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. In the future, level 5 courses in other languages may be considered depending on interest. And finally, Mr. Catelli recommended the expansion of the current social studies and science class for newcomers. High school students included in the newcomer cohort program currently take a course that includes 1 semester of K-8 science and 1 semester of K-8 social studies. However, a single semester of each subject does not provide enough instructional time to build a sufficiently strong foundation in the content. In addition, if a student arrives mid-year, they may miss one of the subjects entirely. The administration recommends that the course be split into 2 subjects, each of which will be developed into a full year course. These classes will be taught by a certified ESL and bilingual instructor and provide elective credit for our newcomer students with interrupted or limited formal education. The committee enthusiastically supported the introduction of all of these courses, and I just wanted to thank the administration for proposing these exciting new options for our students. Next, Ms. Kransky joined us to provide an update on student services in our district. First, she provided an overview of the district student services program and the IEP process. She reviewed the stages involved in developing and executing an IEP and criteria for qualifying for an IEP. Generally, IEPs are designed to place kids in the least restrictive environment and to the maximum extent appropriate, direct children with disabilities to be educated with children who are non-disabled. She then discussed the current status of special education services in the district. Approximately 84% of the students referred for special services are ultimately evaluated. In SHSD, the 2 most frequent disabilities cited for children with IEPs are health impairments and specific learning disabilities. This year, 17.6% of students in our district have an IEP versus 17% in the state and 15% nationwide, with 31 students placed out of district. Approximately 20 to 21% of our Hispanic and economically disadvantaged students receive special education services. In the past, and I think, let me see, is that, yeah, I think that's it for that topic. Ms. Kransky then described several updates related to student services in our district, including increased assistive technology, more frequent transition meetings between schools, and greater communication with the transportation department. The staff has recently received training in a variety of areas, including dyslexia, sheltered instruction, child assault prevention, lifelines, etc., and the district now participates in unified sports and care solace. Additional conversations related to the progress and needs of students receiving special education services will continue in the December meeting and beyond. The committee then approved all professional development and field trip requests, and just have a couple of additional updates. Last month, we reported that we'd be using proximity to provide instruction in the absence of a world language teacher on leave. This instruction will now be provided by Elevate since proximity is unable to fulfill this service. And at the last public meeting, a board member questioned the student achievement of our high school students relative to those of Elizabeth High School, a highly selective and competitive public school for which students are admitted based on their GPA and NJSLA scores. Students in the school must maintain a 3.0 GPA to remain in the school, and given the vast difference between our district and Elizabeth High School, the relevance of such a comparison may be limited. And finally, the high school profile has been finalized and is now available. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve action items numbers 1 through 5 on the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Ms. Cooper, and a second? Ms. Tober. Any discussion?
I just wanted to point out, again, mostly for, I think, the public consumption, that when a cursory look at the top 10 to 12 high schools in New Jersey are all selective admission high schools. In other words, they're only taking the best of the best students in the district. I came out of Marlboro, and we sent to Maxed, we sent to High Tech, we sent to Biotech, we sent to Allied Health. Those students were great students. I have no doubt about that. But when you take the best of the best out of your profile, then it's difficult for the other, let's say, top 50 schools to really be judged by their full merits.
And I just wanted to say, Dr. Borchel, in your report where you did the year-to-year comparison from our student profile, I think that information is helpful. And I appreciate you putting it in there just so we can kind of see areas of growth. And to look at it from one year to the next, I think provides some data on our district and what is being achieved by our staff and our students. So I appreciate you putting that data in there and helping us to take a look at that and show that growth. So it was good. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DeGraffenreid? Yes. Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathan?
Yes.
Mrs. Santori?
Yes.
Mrs. Tobin? Yes. Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes. Yes. Okay, great. Personnel, Mr. Grandpré.
So the Policy and Personnel Committee met on November 2nd from 4 to 5. In attendance were Mrs. Frenda, Mrs. Tober, Mrs. Rye, Mrs. Nathan, and myself, as well as Dr. Burchell. In regards to personnel, we reviewed our preliminary agenda, which included leaves of absence, new appointments, board posting appointments, overloads, and substitutes. And I believe that is it in regards to personnel.
Okay, super speedy.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to approve action items number 1 through 11 on the agenda, please? Ms. Rye, in a second. Mr. Grandpré, okay, and any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathan?
Yes.
Mrs. Santori? Yes. Mrs. Tobin? Yes. Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker? Yes. Ms. Cooper? Yes. Mrs. DeGraffenreid?
Yes.
And Mrs. Jones?
Yes. Great, thank you. And right back to Mr. Grandpré for policy, please.
Yes, so that was the bigger part of our agenda this month. So I will try and be brief, but give a quick update on all the policies that were in first revision. So policy P2270, which is on religion and education, is revised with guidance from the U.S. Department of Education to match the 2022 changes and policy updates to include the 2023 guidance surrounding religious expression versus religion. We reviewed policy 3161 and policy 4161 in terms of examination for cause, which has discussions in the process to obtain the physical and psychological exam as needed after due process for certified and non-certified staff. And that's the difference between policies that start with a 3,000 and a 4,000 is certified and non-certified. There were no major changes in the policy for process, just minor revisions in that. We looked at P3212 and 4212, as well as the regulations that surround them as well, which are in regards to attendance, and they were updated to include the new regulations around the sick leave law that abolishes policy and regulation 4432, and we passed sick leave, I believe it was last month. So this was then revising those. We looked at P5516 and the regulation as well with that for education of homeless children and youth. And that update was to include the word youth and clarification in terms of the district of residents whom the responsibility was for fees and timelines for residency, and enhanced explanations and definitions within the regulation. P5460 and the following regulation was the Bridge to Year pilot program, which was due to time that had passed since COVID and school closures. It's now an abolished policy and regulation, but for knowledge sake, the program was there to allow for a Bridge Year program when a student was graduating and went to a county college for a year of enrollment and wanted to continue in high school sports participation. Regulation and policy 5111 is eligibility of resident and non-resident students. There were clarifications and updates on the residency line. that are in line with NJAC 6A 22-3.1 updates, and the discussion was had during that around the current policy, reading that children of the employees currently do pay full tuition when enrolled in the school, and that was one of the options for change that is not done at this time. We also, as Dr. Brochel discussed, talked about the Booster Club policy significantly in hopes of bringing it to first reading in December and making sure that we had community input into what is currently being functional with Booster Clubs, making sure we're not causing any undue challenges for them as well. I believe that is it in terms of our report.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So now I would like to ask for a motion to approve action item number 1 on the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Grandpré, and a second from Mrs. Tober. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathan? Yes. Mrs. Rose? Yes. Mrs. Tober? Yes. Mrs. Frye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker? Mr. Yes. Mrs.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Great. We will now enter into our second public comment period. Public comments are welcome at this time on any topic. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Unfortunately, Mrs. DeMarco does not have her clock, but she does. She will be timing, and she will have her 30-second warning here. At the expiration of 3 minutes, I will interrupt you just to allow any other speakers a chance at the podium, and all speakers may have a second opportunity to finish their thoughts for a total of 2 times at the podium. Again, just a reminder to please keep all comments respectful and that there is no dialogue between audience members and speakers. Thank you so much for your input. Anyone who'd like to take the podium? A quiet night. Okay. Can I get a motion to close public comments, Mr. Joyce? And a second. Mr. Baker. Wonderful. Okay, thank you. And now we're just going to have a moment for supplementary matters. Just a few words regarding supplementary matters. The views and opinions that may be expressed by individual members of the Somerset Hills Board of Education during supplementary matters are solely those of the individual board members and do not reflect the views, opinions, policies, regulations, and/or positions of the Somerset Hills Board of Education and/or any other individual members of the board. And with that, if there's anyone that has an item for supplementary. Okay. Well, then, seeing none, we can get a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Baker in a second. Ms. Rye, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Have a great night, everybody.